In post-revolution Armenia, freedom of speech has grown aggressively. On every occasion possible, today's authorities, responsible for this so-called revolution, liked to scream and stress this factor. The main revolutionarist Nikol Pashinyan, already in the position of the Prime Minister, assured that the freedom of speech and press will never be restricted.
No one shall ever question the fact that Armenia will never have any problem related to the freedom of press. No matter what, even in case, let's say, all the media platforms get bought by different people, we will never take any action against the media.
Journalists, especially after the last Artsakh war, were deliberately targeted by the authorities. Journalists were blamed for all the sins of the world. Their movement was restricted in the National Assembly. The authorities openly created problems and obstacles for those implementing their professional obligation. And a few days ago, journalists were called verbal prostitutes from the main tribune of the country.
I'm not going to take back what I said.
The actions of the current authorities prove one thing. The regime treats the press as an enemy, targets it by all means possible. Those authorities that have a vast amount of ex-journalists among them, the authorities whose leader is an ex-journalist, are more than aware of the role and significance of the press, because it was mostly with the help of the media that they were able to come to power. The authorities that made their way from the Republic Square to government offices with democratic slogans understand very well that the same press that brought them to power can easily trample it. On August 30 of the last year, the amendment to the Criminal Code of the Republic of Armenia on verbal offense entered into force. According to the amendment, criminal liability is earmarked for cursing or insulting a person in an extremely indecent manner, for publishing materials containing such offenses, for insulting a person due to their public activities. There are criminal cases already in process.
I already have 6 cases related to this amendment, both public and yet private. But there are too many such cases. There are even occasions when the law enforcement agencies disturb people and go missing for a long time. This is used by the procurator's office in order to have an ability to say, we have this amount of cases, but turn only a small fraction of those into criminal cases. This is abnormal. That's not enough argument.
Arman Tatoyan, the human rights defender of Armenia, was also against this amendment. He stated that the authorities had chosen the wrong way of fighting against hate speech and that this provision of the law would pose new problems for the state.
The official representative of the government and the deputies who were in favor of the amendment were unable to explain in the National Assembly what the wording of the article meant. Now it has turned into an article that takes officials and politicians under an inadmissible protection from citizens.
Arman Tatoyan has continuously mentioned that this amendment is a serious threat to the right to personal liberty. The amendment does not stress the possibility of persons' imprisonment, but the human rights defender does not exclude this possibility from occurring.
There are even cases when a journalist can interview a citizen and later, based on an unknown criteria, the law enforcement agencies go and arrest the citizen who gave the interview.
This is Armenia Adibekyan, political scientist and expert on Azerbaijan's internal affairs. She was deliberately targeted by the police for a Facebook post. She is one of those people that was charged with the article in question. I only quoted Nikol Pashinyan with phrases he himself wrote in his book about people from his team. I only want to stress that those who brought dishonor to our state and who continue implementing disgraceful actions against Armenian people and the statehood, those who want to unlawfully stress their dignity, I just have one thing to say to them. People, hear me out. Dignity is gained through proper work. It is constructed on daily basis through kind, pro-government actions. Dignity cannot be created through throwing criminal cases on me and my colleagues. It turns out that the victim of Adibekyan's post should be Nikol Pashinyan, the same Pashinyan whose book The Opposite Side of the Earth was quoted by Adibekyan. Moreover, another occasion was leveled against Armenia Adibekyan on the same grounds, once again for quoting a fragment from Pashinyan's book. I suggest we ban that book because Nikol Pashinyan is the one who teaches us bad words. He is the one who makes us take so-called criminal actions. Armenia Adibekyan mentions Nikol Pashinyan's book is an aggregation of crime, and the experts suggest that the amendment should also include all specific words that can be offensive for the authorities.
Through such means, the authorities are trying to silence the harsh criticism that is thrown on them. They are trying to create an illusion that there is no such criticism among the public.
The police not only pays a huge amount of attention to specific Facebook posts, but also to comments written under them. Hakop Aroyan is the citizen that wrote a comment not so pleasant for the authorities. He was also targeted based on the mentioned article.
They cannot silence those citizens who want to raise their voices about the issues related to unlawful and wrongful actions of the authorities. For now, people express their concern through social media platforms like Facebook.
Freedom House also criticized the mentioned amendment. The organization called on the Armenian authorities to immediately stop its implementation. In the statement, it was mentioned that this factor indicates that a vivid decline in democratic norms, including freedom of speech in Armenia.